There are so many videos out there that claim to have the secret sauce on how to have a high quality live stream but for a fraction of the cost. And I'm here to tell you today that I've spent a lot of time watching these videos, and the thing that I've noticed about a lot of them is that they're not high quality, they're not budget friendly, they're not user friendly, so you can't teach people them very easily. And they're not scalable. So as you grow and as your teams grow and as you develop people, well, you're gonna start to see these videos kind of fall behind and become more relevant. So today, this video is trying to be a little bit different. We're trying to offer a solution that is actually right for you and for your context, whatever size you are. And this is what this video is gonna look like. We're gonna talk about how to get our sound from a soundboard up to a separate mix and a separate room for a live stream. We're gonna talk about how to get a camera anywhere in the building to a separate room for your live stream. We're gonna talk about how to get ProPresenter from your sound booth up to your separate live stream room. We're gonna talk about what software we use to mix the audio in our live stream room and how it can actually be scalable for you, and the only limitations that'll be on you is your own self. And we're gonna talk about how to finally stream to Facebook and to YouTube. So let's dive in today and take a look at our soundboard. Now, before we dive into our soundboard, I thought I'd tell you, how much are we talking? How much money is a quality live stream actually gonna cost me? Well, if you're starting without a soundboard, without a computer, without anything, well, all in, you're probably looking around $5,000 Canadian. But chances are you're probably already using the things that you need in order to have a high quality live stream. And the additional cost that you'll ensue is probably around $1,000 to $1,500, depending on how high quality you want your live stream. But to this day, I can confidently say that we have one of the cheapest solutions to a high quality live stream that I think you're gonna enjoy. So now, let's dive into our soundboard. So if you're looking for a recommendation for a soundboard, I recommend the Behringer X32. Now, the reason why I recommend this is for two reasons. The first reason is because it's super cheap. It's around $2,000 American or $2,700 Canadian. But the second and the real reason I recommend this soundboard is because it has a 32-channel audio interface built into it. But on the topic of soundboards, I want to give you a word of caution. So often there's so many churches and different organizations that go with the expensive, the high quality option. And all too often, I see that that soundboard is barely even getting used to its full potential. There's just a fraction of it being used because their volunteers don't know how to use it. So my suggestion, my advice is go with a soundboard like the Behringer X32, because for the majority of churches, this is going to be very sufficient, and your volunteers can work their way up to the full potential that this has. And let's say your organization gets to a place where you need to hire audio engineers, or you have a bunch of audio engineers in your congregation, well then that might be the point to consider a new, more expensive, more capabilities in your soundboard. But for this point, for starting out, this is a very, very acceptable soundboard. But how do we get the sound from this soundboard up to a different room with a different mix? Well, that's where the 32-channel USB audio interface comes into play. Let me show you what you need for it. So now, how do we get our audio from our soundboard to a separate computer that is running our live stream? Well, the reason why my audio is different is because I've just unplugged everything that we use so that I can show you what we do. So the first thing you're gonna need in order to get sound from your soundboard to a separate live stream mix is a USB A to B cable. Now, this is just a standard printer cable. I'm sure you have them around somewhere. I would recommend getting one that's a little bit longer so that you have some wiggle room to play with, because you're gonna plug in the thick part to the back of your soundboard. And then you're gonna take your USB side, your standard USB that plugs into a computer, and you're gonna plug it into this. This is called the Driver Genius. Now, this acts as your Dante adapter. This is the best investment we've ever made. Now, the way that this works is you plug in your printer cable to the soundboard, and then you take the other side of your USB and you plug it in to this knockoff Dante adapter. And then you'll plug it into power. And then you'll have pretty much your setup ready to go. Now all you'll need is a nice long Cat 5, Cat 6 cable. And I would recommend getting a pretty long one because you're probably gonna wanna put it in a separate room somewhere in your building. So for us, we got 150 or 200 feet of Cat 6 cable so that we could run it to a separate room. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take one end of your Cat 6 and you're gonna plug it into your Dante. And that's all you need to do. Then you're gonna run the other end of the cable through your building, however you wanna disguise it, wherever you wanna put it, in order to get it to the other side of the adapter, which is gonna plug into your separate computer. And that's how you go from your soundboard to your computer. That's all you need with the Behringer X32. If you're using a different soundboard or a different system, then you might need to invest in Dante, but a lot of churches have the X32 and this is already in their auditorium. So I'd recommend just doing this, super simple, super cost effective. It's gonna cost you maybe 300 bucks. Now, just to let you know, we did try and do our live stream in the same room as our auditorium. We had in-house worship, we had our music going, we had everything going, and we also had a volunteer in charge of live stream with a pair of headphones on. Now, the one problem we did run into is that the live stream was a little fraction of a second delayed. So when you feel the kick, you hear it a second after. When you feel the bass, you hear it delayed. Now that drove our volunteers nuts, even when they had noise canceling headphones on. So again, I recommend getting a Cat 5, Cat 6 and running it to a separate room that's more quiet and where your volunteer or whoever's running your live stream won't be disturbed too easily. And that's the first step of how to get your audio to your live stream room. Now, what about our camera? How do we get our camera to our live stream room? When it comes to your camera, there's a bunch of different options that you could use in order to achieve what you want to achieve. Do you want some movement? Do you want a still shot? Do you want a wide shot? You're gonna have to look at all kinds of options and see what speaks to you, what you want to do with your context. For us, we know our camera is only as good as our lighting, so we're not investing in more cameras just yet. We're gonna update our lighting and then buy cameras. Now, if I was gonna recommend a camera, what camera would I recommend? Well, I would recommend going with a PTZ camera, a pan tilt zoom camera. Now, this offers your shots some movement, but with the PTZ camera comes a need for a board that you can control them with. So it does add on the price, but again, go at your own pace and what are you looking for and what is your budget? Because maybe that fits your budget. So again, when I said scalable at the beginning of this video, well, your cameras can be something that you do step by step as a process. You don't need to go out and spend $20,000 on cameras right now. You can do it piece by piece and step by step. Now, whatever camera you do end up choosing, I would recommend that it's good quality. I would recommend that it's a good frame rate, and there's a bunch of videos that can help you with that decision of finding the right camera for you. But regardless of what camera you end up choosing, the problem still remains. How do I get the video that's being captured from my camera to a live stream room that could be over 100 feet away? Well, this is how we did it. Firstly, I'll tell you what not to try. Don't try an extra long HDMI cable. That's not gonna work. HDMI is good up to short distances, but it starts to get worse and worse the longer you go with it. So if you need a cable that's gonna do the distance, HDMI is not your bet. But what about wireless HDMI? If you took a wireless signal from your transmitter to your receiver. Well, we did try this and we tried it for a while, and unfortunately, I haven't found a product reliable enough to make it work for us. Now, this might be your best bet for your context if you have multiple cameras and you can cut away from one that blacks out. But I found with the Nyrus that it would always go to a black screen and then it would come on green and then it would show the camera again. So I don't find it reliable enough for the context that we were in. Maybe it would work for you, but I would recommend against it. So what do I recommend? I recommend the Blackmagic microconverters. Now these convert SDI to HDMI and HDMI to SDI. Now the reason why that's important is because your camera probably has an HDMI out. Now in order to go a long distance, I recommend using an SDI cable. An SDI cable is a lot more protected than an HDMI cable and it can go a longer distance than an HDMI cable. What you would do is you would take an HDMI cable and you would plug it into your camera and you would plug it into this little box. Now this box has SDI outputs. So you would get a long SDI cable, however long you need it, 100 feet, 150 feet, and you would plug it in to the other side of the HDMI converter. So what it would look like is camera into converter into SDI. Then your SDI cable would run all throughout your building until it gets to your live stream room. Once it gets to the live stream room, it's just the other way around. It's the SDI to HDMI converter. So you would plug in your SDI cable at your live stream room, and then you would plug in an HDMI to your A10 mini or something like that. We'll get there in a few minutes. But that is my high recommendation on how to get your camera from wherever it is in your building to your live stream room. And the links will all be in the description if you're wanting to know where to buy this and how much they cost. So here we are in the live stream room, and as you can see right now, my mic is currently recording. This mic is currently being recorded on its own channel, and I can mess with it all day long and it's not going to affect what's happening in the house. And you can also see that the camera is currently on and it's live and it's just fixed on the stage. So let me show you what's plugged in back here so you can get the same results as we got here. So the first suggestion that I would make is to get yourself a Mac Mini or maybe an iMac, but Mac Minis are sufficient and they're pretty cheap for what you get out of them. Now the first thing that's plugged into our Mac Mini is the microconverter that we talked about earlier. Now plugged into the microconverter is the SDI cable, and it actually locks in place, which is another reason why I really like it. And then in there is also the HDMI cord and the power cord. And the HDMI cord is plugging into our A10 mini. And the way this works is you plug in all of your cameras to this board, and you can actually switch to the different cameras just by using this alone and then plugging it in to your Mac Mini. So they make a lot of different versions of these. If you only have 4 cameras or less, I would recommend the A10 mini. They also have more, so go with the one that you think fits your needs the best. I do want to say that for every camera that you have, you will need a microconverter to go from SDI to HDMI in order to get it plugged into your A10 or your A10 mini. So for each camera that you plan on using, you will need to buy a microconverter in order to plug it into your A10 so that you can then plug it into your Mac. The next thing that we also already talked about is the Driver Genius knockoff Dante adapter. Now, we did already talk about it, but this is the other end, and it's being plugged in through your Cat5, Cat6 cable into the knockoff Dante adapter into USB. So it actually doesn't even need power because it's being powered by the USB. And then the next thing we have is our HDMI cable that's being plugged into our TV, and then our adapter that's being plugged into our computer monitor. And then plugged into our auxiliary port, we have an audio splitter so that multiple people can listen to the live stream mix at the same time. Now, I highly recommend a Mac Mini. The Mac Mini does everything you need. The only thing you need to add to it is monitors, which you might even have lying around. But the Mac Mini is everything you need and more. Here are the requirements you need on your Mac Mini. You need a minimum of 16 gigabytes of RAM, or what Apple calls memory. You need 16 gigabytes minimum. Your Mac Mini will be running Logic Pro 32 audio channels with possibly 32 or more plugins. That's a lot on your software. You'll also be running a software to stream to Facebook and to YouTube. So there's a lot that's happening on this Mac. So the more memory or the more RAM that you have, that's what you want. So minimum, you need 16 gigabytes. If you can afford more, feel free to get more because it's only going to do you better in the long run. And if you want more storage, this one actually has 256, which is the minimum amount. So you don't need it, but if you want it, then feel free to add more to it because it's just going to be convenient in the long run again. But the need is 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now there's one more thing that I need to mention about the Mac Mini. If you do get the Mac Mini and you go with the basic version and not the Pro version, then you're limiting yourself to only 2 displays. What that means is you can only have 2 monitors. So right now you see that there's a TV and then there's a monitor. That's our max with the basic Mac Mini. Now, instead of going with the Pro version, which again, if you can afford, I highly recommend it. It's going to do you well in the long run. But instead of spending twice as much or more on the Pro version of the Mac Mini, I found a solution. This little device is a third-party device, meaning it's not made by Apple. It's made by a mini Soparoo, and this allows you to have more than 2 display ports at a time on your basic versions of your Mac Mini. And this is a lot cheaper than going with the Pro version of the Mac Mini. So if you're wanting 3 screens, which is what I would recommend if you have more than 2 cameras, if you're wanting 3 screens, then you're going to need to buy this along with the Mac Mini Basic with 16 gigabytes of memory minimum. Again, all this information is going to be in the description, but I needed to let you know before you went out and made the purchase. So let's get to the actual software that's on the computer right now. So now you're going to search up OBS download in your Google or your search engine. You're going to click on download OBS Studio. You want to make sure that you're on obsproject.com. That's the official OBS website, and that's where you're going to want to download OBS from. That way you don't risk getting any virus or anything like that. OBS will have 3 options that you can download from. You're going to have Windows and you're going to have Apple. You're going to want to click on the one that applies to you. And if you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you're using Apple because that's what I'm recommending for the user friendliness of it. So now you're going to see that there's 4 options of downloads for OBS. The one that you're going to want to choose is Apple Silicon if you're M1, M2, M3, or M4. And if there's more M's that are coming out, then you're going to still want to choose Apple Silicon. If you're doing Intel, well, there's Windows that have Intel as well as Macs, and that would be represented as like i7, for example. So you're going to want to click on Apple Silicon in order to download it. You'll click it, and it will pop up, and it should say, "Thank you for downloading OBS Studio." And you'll see that it should be downloading. So once you've downloaded OBS, you're going to go to your Finder and you're going to go to Downloads and you're going to see OBS Studio. So you're just going to click on it to open it up. And you're going to drag the symbol into the Applications folder. And you're going to put in your administrator's password. And then either in your Launchpad or in your Finder again, you can go up to Applications and find OBS Studio. Now, all you have to do is click to open it up, and then it will verify, and you have to confirm that you do want to open this. Now, your OBS should look something like this. So we'll come back to OBS. The next thing you'll need to do is buy Logic Pro. So in your App Store, you can search up Logic Pro, and it will be there to purchase. Now, I do want to give you an idea that can help you save your money when it comes to buying Logic Pro. Now, Logic Pro is $250 on the App Store, but you can search up Pro Apps Bundle for Education, and this will give you 5 different applications for the same price as what Logic Pro costs originally. Now, the reason why I think this is such a great deal is because it also gives you Final Cut Pro. And Final Cut Pro is a video editing software which I highly recommend. And if you're a church or if you're a nonprofit organization, chances are you will be making a video at some point of the organization's life. So get the best bang for your buck. Try and get both. I think it's worth a phone call to 1-800-MY-APPLE to see if they would offer you the education discount. And by getting the education discount, you can also buy a Mac Mini for a reduced cost as well. So my suggestion is to reach out to Apple, talk to a representative, explain your situation. If you're a nonprofit, tell them you're a nonprofit, and maybe they'll cut you a deal. They did for us. I'm not saying that it's guaranteed, but I think it would be worth a conversation. So once you do purchase Logic Pro, go ahead and download it, and then we'll come back to it again. Now, the next software you're going to need to download is a software called Blackhole. Essentially what Blackhole does is it allows you to bring in high quality audio from Logic Pro and bring it in to OBS. Now, they do ask for a donation of $10, but if you can't afford it, you can say, "I can't afford to donate," put in your email address, first name, last name, and then it will send a link to download to your email. So once you check your email and you see that it's there, you'll click on the link, and then you'll go to this website, and it will prompt you to download Blackhole 2 channel, Blackhole 16 channel, or Blackhole 64 channel. You're going to want to download Blackhole 64 channel. Once it's downloaded, you'll click on it. You'll continue through all of the licensing and agreements. And once it's downloaded, close out of it, and then we'll move on to the last tool you're going to have to download today. Now the last thing you're going to download is the NDI tool bundle. Now you get to this by just searching up ndi.video, or you can just search up NDI video downloader and it should pop up pretty much right away. Just make sure you're on the download tools for either Mac or Windows, whatever system you might be using. Now the only tool you actually need is the NDI virtual input, but I would just recommend downloading all the tools. You'll see that big red download button. But if you do want to save some space on your Mac, then feel free to just download the NDI virtual input, because again, that's all you'll need. So just click on it and it should take you to a screen where you can download it for Windows or for Mac OS. So just download it for the one that suits you. And then once it's downloaded, go through the process of actually adding the application to your Mac so that you can use it. So once you get to the screen that says the installation was successful, go ahead and restart your Mac because you're all done with downloads. Now we can get to the nitty-gritty stuff. All right, so now we've downloaded everything. We just did a restart on our Mac, and now we're gonna set up everything for our live stream. So now we're gonna open up Logic Pro. In order to get to Logic Pro, you go to your Finder, you go to Applications, you go down to L, which is Logic Pro, and then you double click to open it up. Now, as you can see, this is my preset Logic Pro mix. So I'm just gonna minimize that and I'm gonna start from scratch. I'm gonna go to File, I'm gonna click New. So now we're at this Create a New Track page. Now you're gonna wanna click down here where it says Device. As you can see, mine says X USB. I'm gonna click on that, and yours might say something like System Settings or MacBook Pro. What you're gonna wanna click on this one for your audio input is you're going to want to click X USB. Then for your output device, you're gonna wanna click Blackhole 64CH. And then you're gonna wanna go to your IO buffer size. You're gonna make sure it's on 512. You're gonna wanna be around negative 1300 samples for your recording delay. For your processing threads, you want to make sure you're all the way at the top. You want all 8 cores engaged. Your buffer range, you want it large. For your multi-threading, you want playback and live tracks. And for your summing, you want high precision 64-bit. X out of that screen, and then you also want to make sure that you're on input 1. And then you also want to click ascending. So make sure you're on input 1 ascending. The last thing that you'll do is you'll add 32 channels if you're working with the Behringer X32, because it has 32 channels of inputs actually on the board. So put in 32 and then hit create. There are now 32 channels in Logic Pro. So these are all your channels. Now I like it to be a little bit more clean, so I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, and I like to add my sliders to the bottom like this. So now you can see I have all my sliders, and you can see when you scroll up on this slider menu, so this is input 1, input 2, input 3, input 4, and so on. So now everything that's on my soundboard should be coming through its own channel, and I can actually label these. So I know, for example, when I talk into this microphone right here, that it is coming through pretty strong. So I can label this handheld 1. And now I'm labeled handheld 1. So now I'd go through all of my channels, my drums, my bass, my pianos, my vocals, and then I would label every single one of them. And once I label them, they'll look something like this. So you can also color them, but I have all of my instruments here. So let's go back to our other screen that's not named. Let's say we want to add some effects to my handheld microphone. Apple has built-in effects in Logic Pro. So when we click on this channel, we can actually add effects by going right under the input. We can click on that and we can see all of Apple's built-in effects. So for example, let's say we wanted to add a little bit of reverb. Well, we could choose the reverb we want, and you can research which one you think will suit your need. But let's say we went with the chroma verb. And we could add a little bit of reverb. Now let's say you have no idea how this plugin works, which I assume you don't. Well, you can go up to the presets and you can select
what you think you want. So let's say you want a hall, or you want a room verb, or you want a space. So if you want a big amount of verb, then you can do, a vocal plate or a vocal hall. So let's say I'm putting that on my microphone. Then I have a vocal hall on this microphone now. Let's say I want a little bit of gain. I can go down to Utility, add some gain, and then add some gain, which makes everything a little bit louder. But let's say I don't want these delays. I don't want all of these preamps going on. Then I will turn it off, and to delete it, you can just go to this little up and down arrow beside it and click no plugin, and it just gets rid of it. And that is how you get a better quality sound. Another way to get a better quality sound is to do EQ. Now this is Apple's built-in Logic Pro EQ. And again, if you don't know how to equalize, just use the presets. That's a really good place to start. So if I'm a male vocalist, then I can click on male vocalist and it can give me its suggestion. Then I can tweak it the way I need to and do whatever I need to do there. So that is how to get EQ. But also make sure to not forget to equalize your output. Often we forget to add some highs to our output. So maybe make it a little bit brighter, because if it's too muddy, then it's going to be bad. Maybe make it a little bit brighter and add some shimmer to your online presence.
So we'll go ahead and open up OBS. Again, to find that, you're going to go to your Finder. You're going to click on Applications. You're going to go down to O and find OBS. You're going to click it to open it up, and then it should pop up right away. OBS should look something like this. You probably won't see all these sources, but you should see OBS pop up. In OBS, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on Preferences. Once you click on the OBS icon, you can click on Preferences, and this screen should pop up. You should see General, Appearance, Stream, Output, Audio. So we're going to click on Audio. Now, I will add one more mic so that you can see what to do, but you're going to go to mic/auxiliary audio. You can just go to the first one. Then you're going to select Blackhole 64 channel, click Apply, and hit OK. So now you can see we have mic/aux. It should be labeled mic/aux for you. I labeled mine Dude this one so our volunteers know what it is. So in order to see what's going on, you probably still don't have any audio. So in order to see what's going on, you need to click on the gear symbols, which are the advanced audio properties, and then go to what you just created. So for you, it would be mic/aux. For me, it's mic/aux2. Now you are going to go over to Monitor, and you're going to click on the drop-down menu, and you're going to click Monitor and Output. And then you are going to bring down the volume because it's probably going to be pretty loud, but this should allow you to hear everything Logic Pro is doing. So if I mute my audio in Logic, then my audio will also be muted in OBS. So that's how to get a higher quality audio in general. Now I want to briefly touch on plugins. You can see we have a lot of plugins going on right now. We even purchased more plugins to have an even higher quality sound. So for example, we purchased plugins by FabFilter and STEVEN SLATE. FabFilter we highly recommend, but it's around $900. So if you can't afford that, just stick with the Apple plugins. STEVEN SLATE, he offers a free version of Trigger 2. And what Trigger 2 does is it replaces the snare and the kick of your drums. Now, this alone can help you have an even higher quality audio on your live stream. So I highly recommend looking into STEVEN SLATE's Trigger 2 even before you look into FabFilter. But even beyond buying more plugins and getting more plugins, which you can search up how to add plugins to Logic Pro, but beyond that, you can use Apple's built-in plugins to have a quality live stream, and you can mix it well just by adjusting the EQs and making it fit your sound and your live stream. Now let's move on to adding our camera to OBS. So when you open up OBS, you probably will have no sources, or maybe you'll have one source. Now, to add your camera to it, you have to make sure that your Blackmagic ATEM Mini is plugged in, or whatever version of ATEM you have. Now, if you have your ATEM plugged in, you'll add a source by going to Sources, this little window in Sources. You'll go to the plus icon, and then you will click Video Capture Device. Once you click Video Capture Device, you can name it. So let's call it Camera Test. Once you create your camera test, then you can see that there's a drop-down menu for device. Now device, you can click on your Blackmagic design. So it should pop up right away, Blackmagic design. And you can see that our camera comes up. And it is upside down because we mounted our camera upside down. So if we wanted to flip it around, let's say you mount your camera upside down or you have it a certain way, then just bring it down, flip it around by grabbing the bottom little icon right here, and then readjust the way you need to. So that is how you should get your camera up and running through Blackmagic and using the ATEM. So now you should have audio and you should have video. Now you might be asking, how do I get my slides and my lyrics on OBS as well? Well, we'll come back to that at the end, but right now I just want to make sure that you can get up and running with your camera and with your Logic Pro. But right now, if you hit start streaming or start recording, nothing will happen. So how do you start recording and how do you start streaming to Facebook? Well, let's look at that now. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click on the OBS icon again, and then again, go to Preferences. Once you're in Preferences, you'll go down to Stream. Now on the Stream tab, you're going to select Facebook Live. You're going to select Default as your server, and then you're going to find your stream key. To find your stream key, you're going to open up a search engine and go to Facebook. Now, when you go to facebook.com, I would recommend that you actually create an account for your organization so that when you go and stream, they're not going to be logging into anybody's personal Facebook and they can't find any sensitive information. So I've created an account called Streams Church Red Deer, which is where our church is located. Now, Streams Church Red Deer has nothing on it. They have one friend and it's me. I just use this for accessing my page. So chances are your church already has a Facebook page that you can live stream from. What you would then do is you would add your created church profile as an administrator to your Facebook page. So I'm going to switch to the Facebook page of our church. And this is where you can actually go live. So this is where you're going to want to be. But once you create your own church's profile and once you add them as an administrator to your actual Facebook page, then you can go on your Facebook page and go live. So click on the live video icon and then go to the Go Live section and click Go Live. The Create Live Video page will then pop up. Now this is where you're going to look for your stream key. You're going to scroll down a little bit, and I've blocked mine out, but essentially you're just going to copy your stream key and you are going to go back to OBS and you're going to paste the stream key in the spot where it says stream key. And then you're going to click apply. And now you are connected to Facebook Live. So when you click start streaming, it will now send to Facebook. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to click start streaming. I'm going to go to Facebook. And now you can see that our video is connected to Facebook. But here's the thing, we're not live. So you have to say what your video is about and you have to give a description. And then that second check will come up. And then you will have to actually click Go Live. So let's say your church starts at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Then you would come here and click the Go Live button. That is how to go live on Facebook using OBS. Now, how do you stream to Facebook and to YouTube using OBS? Typically, you need to have another streaming provider like Ecamm or Restream, and maybe you're already using that. But to save your church some money, you can actually do it in the free software of OBS. So to do this, you need to log in to YouTube. And for this, I recommend creating a generic YouTube account with a generic email because it usually links up to a Gmail or maybe your church email. So you want to make sure that whoever is running your live stream doesn't have access to confidential information. So for us, we just have a generic email that is synced up to our YouTube channel. And I won't go too in depth in that because there's lots of videos on how to do that. So now you're going to click on your YouTube channel and you're going to click on create and then go live. Now, when you're here, you can either go straight to streaming or you can click manage a video and schedule a stream. So we'll schedule a stream. We'll create a new one. We'll call it test, and we'll make sure that it is all good. And then we'll just breeze by this, and then we'll make it private for now because we're just testing it between you and me. And then we'll click done. But you would want to make sure it's public and at the time you would want. So now, when we go to our YouTube studio, we can see that there is an upcoming video called test. So now when you want to go live, let's say again, it's 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, you click test and it brings you to this page. But now we need to tell OBS that we want our video to be sent here. So let's go back to OBS. So now we're back in OBS. We'll click on OBS and we'll click preferences. Now that we're on preferences, we'll actually, instead of clicking on stream, we're going to click on output. And when we're on output, we're going to click on recording. Now that we're on recording, we can see under the FFmpeg settings that there's a file path or URL. This is where you're going to put your YouTube URL. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back to YouTube and you're going to copy your stream URL. So copy that. And then you're going to go back to OBS and you're going to paste it in the file path or URL. Now, make sure to add a / after the live to, because this is where you're going to put your stream key. So copy your stream key, go back to OBS and paste it on the file path or URL. This will now give you the ability to start streaming to YouTube. So now, instead of clicking start streaming, you can say start streaming is for Facebook and start recording is for YouTube. So if I click start recording now, then I can go back to my YouTube and you can see that it started to connect to OBS. And after a few seconds, you will see that my camera pops up and I'm ready to start streaming. Now you can see my camera is right here. And all I will do at this point is click go live once I'm ready to go live. That is how to go live on YouTube. Now I do want to mention, if you're just clicking on stream and you're not scheduling a stream, well, if you click on stream and you do the steps that I just told you, then you will not have the option to click go live. Instead, the moment that you hit start recording is when you will go live on your YouTube account. So just keep that in mind while you're preparing to go live. So now you should have audio and video for your live stream and you should be ready to go live on YouTube and Facebook right now. But how do you get lyrics and how do you get slides on OBS? Well, for that, we need to go to our ProPresenter computer because we can't do it from here. So let's go there right now. So here we are at ProPresenter, and I want to show you how to get your slides and your lyrics and Bible verses all being sent over to OBS on your live stream computer. So to get it set up, you need to go to ProPresenter. Make sure you're clicked on ProPresenter. You're going to need to click on Screens. You're going to go to Configure Screens. You're going to have to click on Audience and the plus sign next to Audience. And then you're going to click on New NDI. And then you're going to hover over New NDI and select the option 1080p 59.94. Click on that, and then you can name that Slides/Bible Verses. Hit enter, and then that will be what your NDI is called. And that is all you have to do to set up ProPresenter so that OBS can receive slides. So let me select our chili cook-off slide. And now let's go back to our live stream computer. So now we're back at our live stream computer, and now let's click on OBS. So now we're on OBS. Now how do we get our slides? It's very, very simple. You see that we have our camera set up. In a similar way, we're going to go to our sources and add a new source. And then we're going to go up to NDI source. And then we'll create a new source. Let's call it Slides Test. So now that we have Slides Test, we can select our source right beside source name. So let's click source name, and now you can see the NDI source that you just created. For us, it was Slides Bible Verse. So let's click that, and now you can see that Chili Cook-Off has come up here. So you'll click OK, and now whenever you want slides to come up above your camera, you'll just click the eye icon. But you notice how choppy that is? To fix the choppiness, right-click on that new source, and you're going to go to Show Transition. You're going to click Fade, and then you're going to do it again. Right-click on Slides Test, and you're going to go Hide Transition. And then you're going to click on Fade again. Now, when you fade it, it will fade up and fade out. So that worked for our slides, but how do you make lyrics? So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to add a new source. You're going to do your NDI source again. You're going to name it Lyrics. And then you're going to select that same source, Slides, Bible Verses. Click on that, and you'll see the same thing pops up. So Lyrics, Slides. So again, you're going to right-click on it. You're going to Show Transition. You're going to fade it. You're going to right-click again. You're going to hide transition. You're going to fade it out. Now what you're going to do is you're going to hold down the Option key on your keyboard, and you're going to crop the lyrics. So go until you think it's good. I would match it up with the sides, and then you can move it around once you're done. So now let's bring it over a little bit more. So let's say something like that, just for example. Now, when you click on it, you can move it around, and you can even shrink it down at the bottom of the screen. So if you wanted your lyrics at the bottom of your screen, then now you have them at the bottom of your screen. So when worship is happening, you can fade them in and fade them out. And the person that's running your ProPresenter will also change what's happening on here, and you don't have to worry about it. You just have to make sure the source is visible. So let me show you what we have on ours. Right now we have our main camera in the back. And then we have worship lyrics that are at the bottom with an opacity. And if you want your lyrics with some opacity, then just search it up online, and they'll give you a step-by-step guide on how to make your lyrics with opacity. And same with Bible verses. We have Bible verses, but just a little bit bigger. So when we have our pastor speaking, then you can see all the Bible verses he's referencing. Or maybe they have message slides. Well, we decided to put ours in the bottom left-hand corner while the person speaks on Sunday morning. And then we also have a countdown in the morning, which is our full screen slides. The last thing I will tell you for this video is I recommend you copy these preferences on OBS. With your output, make sure to copy these verbatim, but keep your own file path or URL, but make sure to copy all these verbatim, because this was what works really well. Again, with streaming, make sure to copy this verbatim because it works very, very well. And similar with video, copy this. It works very well.
And that's all you need to have a high quality live stream. I know it seems like a lot of work, but trust me, it's gonna be amazing in the long run for you, for your budget. So you don't have to be a large scale church with a high budget in order to achieve a high quality live stream. Follow these steps and you can get what we got. And here's an example of what our live stream used to sound like and now what it sounds like currently today. So I hope that this video has been useful and that you see the value in it, because I know I have. So hopefully it works for you, and be blessed.
There is nothing like your love, Jesus. There is nothing like your